Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Monday lunch wrap, Greater Grace Church. It's can't say good to see you because I don't even, oh, there's a camera. It's right in front of me. So good to see you all, and figuratively speaking, today I am in the book of Ruth, and I am rediscovering the riches of Ruth, we could say. And it's because I did the class, Pastor Mike Plunkett, last Thursday, early morning, for the folks there, I think in Singapore and China, and it was Ruth chapter 2, so of course that meant I had to go there and study, and I'm just so blessed by being forced into the book of Ruth, so to speak, and rediscovering what a story. It's got all the literary features and the building up of suspense, the turning points, and then more suspense, and then there's it's all lining up perfectly, but then there's this big question like, uh-oh, the deal isn't quite sealed in this love story, because there's the possibility that someone else is going to come in and make the move, and it's all over. But you'll have to read the book yourself. It's only 4 chapters or 4 scenes, if you want to look at it that way. And there's really so much more to this than meets the eye. We think about how the story goes, how it starts, famine. Hey, let's face it, you got to eat. That's kind of like, if you don't have food, well then that is the top priority. No food, no life. It's all over eventually. So, lots of questions can be asked. There are a lot of questions that can be raised about many things in this book. Was Elimelech right in leading his family out of Bethlehem down to Moab, of all places? Did God lead him out? Were there other provisions, but that might have been better for his faith, but he compromised and went there anyways, to the land of the Moabites, who were not best friends, we could say, with the Israelites. They were not allowed into the congregation until the 10th generation because of what they did not meet Israel with bread and water when they came out of Egypt. Also introduced them to idolatry and immorality. So because of these things, God was very angry with the Moabites and others as well. So that's what we have here in the book of Ruth. And so we see like everything going wrong in their lives. A famine, they find food, they go to Moab, they have their life there. The 2 sons end up marrying Moabite women, which was also prohibited according to the law, but they got married. So they have this whole new way of life, new culture, new location, left home, left family, left culture, left their way of life. And so all that is how were they received? How did people treat them? So that's challenging enough. But then we see that her husband dies. Elimelech has died, has passed, as we say. We don't know what happened. Was it God chastening him? Was he sick? Did he have a heart attack? Well, we don't know. That's not the point of the story. But he died. But at least Naomi, being now a widow, has 2 sons. Thank goodness for 2 sons. But then one of the sons dies. So now she is bereft of a husband and a son. But thank goodness she has another son. But then that son dies. And now she has no husband. She has no sons. But she has 2 daughters-in-law to whom really she sees herself as no value to them. And she's thinking about them and their future. And it says in verse 6, chapter 1, then she arose with her daughter-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. So that's pretty good. These 2 daughters-in-law, apparently they had a very precious relationship together. So she's going back. She heard there's food, and so they're going with her. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, she is concerned for their future. And she's thinking, no doubt, my daughters-in-law, let's be real about this. You want to go back with me to my country, but really, number 1, you're foreigners, you're Moabites, Moabitesses. Number 2, you're widows. And number 3, what are the chances you're going to get married? At least to someone you would like to get married to. And so she is discouraging them. And she says, go return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. In other words, you women have been very kind to me, to your father-in-law, and to your respective husbands. And so the Lord grant that you may find rest, which means a future, a husband, a home, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. She's been in Moab for 10 years. How long have they been married? We don't know. We could say at least 5. We'll kind of pick the middle, 5 years. And the 3 of them are together, apparently on the road, on the way back to Bethlehem, the house of bread that has bread again. And the 3 of them are there just weeping, maybe wailing, just distraught at the twists and turns of life. These 3 widow women, and crying the loss of their loved ones, and also now the thought of separating is even compounding the grief that they're already suffering. This is like rock bottom. I mean, does it get worse than this? This is rock bottom for these precious women. And they said to her, no, we will return with you to your people. Resolve. No, we are staying with you. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way. You can imagine, Maybe it's hard for her to say this, still weeping and trying to compose herself and get the words out and catch her breath. I mean, it's a mess. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband, this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they are grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter for me, for your sake, that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. And this was her belief. She was interpreting the circumstances of her life by what was happening to her. And this was her statement of faith right here. Naomi, what is going on? What do you have to say about what's happened in your life? Oh, it's simple, it's easy, it's obvious. Don't you see? The hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Maybe she thought she knew why. Maybe she was kind of baffled by why is this happening to me? It's my husband's fault. But she doesn't say that. We should never have left Bethlehem. All kinds of reasons. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. Has anyone ever made a movie about this? I mean, really captured the emotion in the crisis moment on the road. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law. I mean, she, I guess, agreed when she was reasoned with after these verses. Yeah, what's my future if I go with you? I'm just going to stay here. And that's okay, right? That's her decision. But there was something very special about Ruth, this woman. Ruth clung to her. This is kindness on Ruth's part. Something was in her heart toward her mother-in-law. And this was a absolutely selfish decision, because she could no doubt easily have gotten married, remarried in Moab with her people. Of course. And maybe there would have been a lot of guys that wanted to marry her. We don't know. But this word clung is, in the Hebrew, is the same word that is used between that you shall cleave unto your wife. It's the same word. It really means to adhere to be glued. We could say glue. She was glued to her mother-in-law. Very strong word. This woman was selflessly dedicated for the benefit of her mother-in-law. She is saying, like, I am here for you. And then she said, and this is Naomi. Now, Naomi isn't finished with her trying to dissuade her from following. And she said, see, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Interesting. And if you look at this first section here in chapter 1, I believe it says, turn back, go home, return, something like 10 times. So that is the theme in this portion here. Go back, go home, return. But Ruth isn't having it. And then return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. So now, Naomi's resolve is outdone by Ruth's. And it's almost like she's saying, stop saying that. I'm not leaving. Understand what I'm saying. I am not leaving you. So Naomi, maybe, I don't know, did they stop crying? We don't know, but she adds this, where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people, the Jews, shall be my people. And here it is. This woman is a believer. And we see that as the story continues. And your God, my God. Yes. We have a conversion here. She's leaving her gods. She's following Naomi and Naomi's God. Where you die, I will die. And where you're buried, I'll be buried. What could Naomi say after that? May the Lord do so to me and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. So now she's making a vow before Naomi's God, saying, I am signing on the dotted line, and may this cost me dearly if I don't fulfill my promise to you before your God and before my God. And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. Case closed. All right, I understand. This is beautiful. Selflessly, loyally, dedicated to be with her, to serve her, because she wanted to make sure that whatever she could do, she would do. She did not know what the future held at all. There was no promise from anybody, but she went by faith because her heart was full of love. But God had a plan. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem, the house of bread. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" Now think of it this way. They're kind of like in disbelief. Perhaps not so much because, we haven't seen you for 10 years. So part of it is that, obviously. But it seems like it's also because of the way she looked, that this trial had taken its toll upon her. Not only that, they just walked 7 to 10 days over a very difficult journey through mountains and difficult areas. So they show up, and this is their response. Is this Naomi? Maybe they're squinting there. Is that Naomi? Like, wow, what happened? And probably asking, and who's with her? So that was quite a stir. And, yes, it says that. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. Then they asked, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi." Probably, maybe she had a blank stare as she's speaking to them. It's like she's hardly even there. She's grieving, and she's depressed, and she's empty, and she just says, maybe like with a kind of a panned face and look, she says, "Do not call me pleasant." It's like, don't you dare call me pleasant. Don't call me pleasant, call me bitter, because that's just what I am. I am a bitter person, and I am not ashamed to say it, because I am suffering grief beyond my ability to articulate how I feel. For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. So this is a reference again. This is how God treats me. Great, yeah, this is how, if God is against me, what hope will I have? If this is what happens to me, then I have every right to be a bitter person. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Okay, so now we understand the way she's looking at this, how she's interpreting it, and why she feels the way that she does. And let's face it, that's what the devil loves to do the most. If he can persuade us that God is against us, then what hope do we have? None. If the Almighty is resisting us, we're in trouble. And of course, we know what we do in that case. We turn to him all the more because he's not against us. I mean, he can be situationally, we could say, but ultimately, absolutely not. So she said, when the Lord has testified against me, the Almighty has brought calamity upon me. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem. Oh, let's just say these last words of chapter 1. Oh, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Okay, just with that line right there, things are about to turn in a most positive direction. She left Moab, could say by faith, made the journey, arrived, and God has a plan. And they are unknowingly about to walk right into the favor of God after all this. Because the point that she makes is, I went out full and I came back empty. But you know why? You know why God does these things? Because we also start out full. And God has to empty us. Okay. Case in point. I'll just read this verse in this passage in John chapter 3. It says regarding John the Baptist, it says in verse John 3:30, he said, he, Jesus, must increase. And this is John speaking, of all people, a guy who lived his life in obedience to God as a prophet in the wilderness. I mean, we wouldn't actually say, you know, John the Baptist was living the high life, would we? You know, going on cruises and living his life and traveling, and I mean, he's eating locusts and wild honey and dressed like an old-time prophet. So, nevertheless, this man who is totally living for the glory of God under a Nazirite vow, and he says he must increase and I must decrease. Well, if John can say that, I guess we can say ditto, John, for sure. But notice this. He who comes from above is above all. He who is on the earth belongs to the earth. That's us. He who is of the earth belongs to the earth and speaks in an earthly way. That's us. We are full. We are full of the earth, full of earthly ways in our thinking. What else could we have unless God increases us with his word? He who comes from heaven is above all. He bears witness to what he has seen and heard, yet no one receives his testimony. Whoever receives his testimony sets his seal to this, that God is true. And this is what we do. We say, God, no, your way is the way. And so for he whom God has sent utters the words of God, and he gives the Spirit without measure. The Father loves the Son and has given all things into his hand. Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life. Whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. So we are those who are agreeing with God, and we are saying, Lord, we want your way. We've had enough of our way, and so we give ourselves to you. And so God starts the process of emptying. And so this is, Naomi doesn't realize it, and Ruth also, that this is like, oh, happy days on the horizon, because they return to where they should be, empty. The needle is on, way over, pegged over on the E. The little red light is on. It's saying, empty, empty, empty. And now God doesn't say it, but he shows it. Okay, now it's time to be filled. And that's really when God can fill us, is when he has allowed circumstances to empty us of ourselves. And then, obviously we can't read the whole book here, but chapter 2, verse 1, and Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man. And by the way, later on Boaz says about Ruth, that everybody knows you're a worthy woman. And this word means people of really strength and wisdom, we could say, of character. That how God matches up a man of woman with a man of character with a woman of character. We see this match because both words are used. The words are used twice, once for him, once for her. Isn't that the way we want it? Don't we want to be worthy in the sense of godly people with character? Not perfect. Oh, no, no, no. Not perfect. Oh, I'm supposed to stop at 10 of. It's 5 of. Okay, well, man, I'm just saying, let this cliffhanger drive you to the book of Ruth to find out what happens, because I might be in trouble. All right, have a great day. I'll just let you know, it turns out really, really, really good. So keep reading. Catch you later.